Good morning. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to our Natural Health News live show. I had some technical difficulties this morning, but I'm excited to have you join me this morning for our daily. We're going on almost 10 weeks of natural health news specific to the coronavirus, COVID-19, and how to equip and arm your bodies and your lives and your family's lives to be healthier and safer during this pandemic season. So today I'm very excited because we actually are talking specifically about a major underlying health concern that is greatly impacted by COVID-19. And it is specifically, so sorry, YouTube's buffering again. And one of the core areas of focus for today's video is about your kidneys. So we're going to talk about your kidney health, the kidney function, the role of the kidneys, and then also COVID-19 and your kidneys. Then we're going to talk about 3 ways to support, bolster, and enhance your kidney function. One is food oriented. The other is lifestyle and mental. And I'm really excited because many of you have written me about kidney health and kidney function. And most importantly, we have a video sponsor for today's video. So I want to highlight them. Moonstone is our video sponsor for today. They actually are a drink for the support of your kidney function. So I actually have a drink made up here. These are little packets. You have citrate. It's from citric acid. They have a patented version of this. This product line is actually created by nephrologists at the NYU medical program. So NYU is one of the major medical facilities that is dealing with COVID-19. And in fact, I'm very excited because these individuals have worked specifically with us to highlight the role of kidney function. And they are the creators of Moonstone are actually working with COVID-19 patients right now. So this is really exciting because they're on the front line. And if you want to support a frontliner supporting their product and buying this because it's scientifically founded, this is a fantastic product that will address the core element of kidney dysfunction, which is often the development of kidney stones. So Moonstone actually has components in here that help minimize the development of kidney stones. And I know a lot of folks are kidney stone developers. It prominently affects women more than men. And we've seen a triple-digit growth in the matter of 30 years in terms of from the 1970s to 2000s, a significant growth in the development of kidney stones. So we need to support our kidney function. And I've been drinking this drink. It's so amazing. This is a tropical fruit flavor to it. And it's honestly more appetizing than my magnesium drink. And they actually have these packets, but they also have liquid. You can grab them on Amazon. I've got a link down below. The liquid that I would recommend, they have a honey ginger. So win-win, you get the honey, you get the ginger, which is good for lymphatics and fluid function, but also you get the citrate. So in every bottle or pack, it's 25 milligrams of citrate. And then you also have that combined with something called alkali or alkali citrate. That's what makes this so unique. That bonding of the alkali and the citrate is what helps support your kidneys. So welcome all of you this morning. So let's give some love to Moonstone. I'm so excited. They've been so gracious. And again, the nephrologists who created this product line are in New York in the front line. They're working with patients who have kidney dysfunction, kidney disease, and are on dialysis because of COVID-19. So Moonstone are literally, this product line's awesome. So I encourage all of you to check it out. But today we're talking a lot about kidney function. Specifically, I have a just literally hot off the presses from the New England Journal of Medicine. There's some more information about kidneys and SARS-CoV-2, which is COVID-19. and how it particularly aggressively attacks the kidney. So we'll get into that more specifically, and then how to equip your body and really acknowledge supporting your kidney. So Moonstone will be part of that as well. So for all of you tuning in, this is a 2-part live series. This is unedited and it's very engaging with our community. So we have a live chat. I welcome all of you to communicate. Pat is running the live chat, Pat Ron, and they have built and created a community where you guys are friends and communicate and connect. It's also supportive of any of you who are isolated and by yourselves. You're not alone, especially when you tune into our live shows. And on the replay, I encourage you to comment down below because we actually review those comments as well. So let me know, first things first, where is everybody tuning in from? What city, what state, what country? We have a large international community. So globally speaking, let's get into the statistics and the numbers. So we are at 4.347 million cases globally. The US has risen to 1.421 million. So we have 1.4 million cases. New York's at 340,000. New Jersey's at 141. Some noteworthy number increases. Illinois is really moving up. They are at 84,696. Massachusetts crossed the 80,000 threshold. They're at 80,497. California also crossed the 70,000 threshold. They're at 71,141. And Pennsylvania is inching up to 60,000. They're at 58,000. Michigan will be crossing over 50,000 shortly. They're at 48,000. Texas and Florida are literally almost tied, one person off. So Texas and Florida are both at 42,403 for Texas, 402 people for Florida. So Florida is definitely moving up. And Georgia is also right under Florida at 35,000. So we're watching those cities and areas closely. I see Ohio and LA and Charleston and Michigan, Texas, West Virginia, Missouri. We have a lot of folks that are in areas where you might still be in lockdown, or your communities are starting to look at what does it look like when we start to reopen. And one of the things that I want to highlight, and I've gotten some, with the live show comes a change, a dynamic in terms of my channel and what we put out. There's been a change in how I present content to you. It's in a live format. And I've actually had a lot of people not so happy with that. And it's interesting because they're like, we're sick and tired of talking about COVID-19. But there was a Pew Research article that highlighted at minimum 40, I actually printed this out. I thought this was kind of funny. 44% of people, this is their kind of breakdown, 44% of their people are actually talking about COVID-19 on a daily basis, multiple times. It's almost like what we think about at the center of our day. Women more so than men. And then it categorized different communities. The Black and African American communities are thinking about it more so. Obviously, they should, because their numbers is disproportional to that community. And then the different ages. In fact, they actually said that individuals older, 65 and older, really had the least amount of thinking about it. They might have thought about it once a day, or maybe not at all. But the most concerned community, it's almost equal between 18 and 64, but our younger community. And we know they've been hit harder because many of them are going to school, they're out of school, they're in college, and it's affected them more so. Just a slight, variance of 1% in terms of what they're thinking. And it just broke down like, education level and then political level. I won't get into that, but the reality is that we're all overwhelmed with information. And so I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Try and condense our information so it's impactful, and then dig into health resources. Like today's topic is going to be about the kidneys. So some information that I think is quite fascinating. Prisons and jails are 2.5 times more likely to have density and outbreaks, so clusters of COVID-19 because of this space. There is also a particular jail in Wisconsin that is they've paid quite a bit, and actually apparently FEMA's financed them for this, but they have bought one of these UV robots. And I talked a little bit earlier this week, last week. This robot here is being tested out at Pittsburgh, and we see robots like this in Hong Kong airport being tested. Well, the jail in Wisconsin, actually, they bought 2 or 3 of these units. They're like $40,000 to $80,000. These are really expensive units. And these, you can't even have a human in the same area. It's so overwhelming and could be harmful to their eyes. So they keep them in a space. They basically lock the robot in, it moves around and sanitizes. But what this one jail is showcasing is they actually have it's tempered the caseload, and they haven't had the rate of growth that these other jails have had. So this is a really interesting experiment in one of the more prone places, 2.5 times more likely to have clusters or major outbreaks in a jail or prison. You also translate that to office spaces. So we might be seeing more companies investing in these really high-tech UVC light filters. The other thing that has come out is that, and this is from our friends at the University of Tokyo in combination with scientists, researchers at the University of Wisconsin. So many of you know I lived in Japan for a year, and one of the most sacred animals in Japanese culture is the cat. And the fact that cats and felines are more prone in the animal category than even dogs at catching and transmitting the coronavirus, they're actually studying. And what they've identified is that cats can and have been infecting other cats. So if you have, a human who has COVID, maybe they're asymptomatic, passes to the cat then infects another cat. They've done this in trial settings. And so they're trying to understand what that greater impact might be also on humans, and the transmissibility that we might also be impacted by, strays that we encounter or even adoption. So that, I think we want to kind of wait and see what research is out there. For all of our feline lovers, I'm definitely a cat lover. We're going to watch that information. It's quite fascinating. The other thing that is a huge breakthrough, unrelated right now to COVID-19, but significant in the world of stem cells. You search about stem cell therapy. I'm really fascinated by the technology of stem cells and just the way that it can be used in healing and for medicinal purposes. So, and YouTube's buffering a lot, friends. So if it tunes out, I will just keep on. And Instagram's kicking. So if you guys need to transition over to Instagram, that's fine. Researchers and stem cell scientists have actually generated human stem cells in embryos in mice. So this embryonic, basically the embryos have been implanted with human stem cells. This may have life-changing impact long-term. You're going to hear it here first, because this is literally, it just was reported 3 or 4 hours ago. This research could potentially play a role down the road, not immediately, because this is just still in the onset. It's so new. This might impact how we address pandemics in the future. It also may affect rejuvenative medicine, which is a really big factor of stem cells. But it is very fascinating. And the fact that we've been able to isolate and grow these in mice embryos is quite telling when it comes to repairing organs like kidneys and other core organs that might be damaged due to a viral infection like COVID-19. On the same vein of new studies, I have some really, today is the Science Day. Researchers and labs are getting lots of coverage in our live chat. There's a new study assessing the virus replication, and it's identifying that the virus replicates also in the intestines. We know that fecal matter can showcase viral RNA. The big question is that transmissible? Is it shedding? But they're looking at one of the susceptible organs apart from kidneys and the heart and the cardiovascular channels, the intestines are particularly targeted, partially because of the receptivity, the ACE2 receptivity, the enzyme that we know the actual spike virus. It actually loves the ACE2 receptors and ACE2 enzymes. That is a big factor, and we do see that quite a bit in the intestines. On another totally different front, very exciting, props to our Harvard and MIT geniuses up in Massachusetts. The bioengineering lab up there has already been working on and successfully identified masks with a particular type of material on the outside and UV luminescence. They've identified, they've for the past several years, they have put together a mask that can tell and lights up this fluorescent light when viral particles get on this particular paper that's on a mask that somebody's wearing. It already can tell if somebody has exposure, or if the person wearing or the person they've come into encountered has SARS or Ebola, even hepatitis C, and even the flu and measles. They're now taking that same technology in the lab and applying the new RNA, DNA, genetic coding for COVID-19, because we now have the clearinghouse, that consortium the CDC's opened up. All of the universities and all the labs across the world are all collectively gathering info. These scientists are creating a mask. They're testing a prototype that can light up when a COVID person breathes, coughs, or sneezes on the wearer of the mask. That's really exciting. And it's a fluorescent bulb. They're playing with like the apparatus itself, but we've just gotten more information about Abbott Labs, that rapid test. It is failing. I think its efficacy is only like 45 or 46%. That's not good, because the Abbott Lab test, the rapid test, is missing positive tests. And because of that, they're looking at this technology that the bioengineering labs created might be a virus identifier. And so it might be something where we might see this. And this is all my speculation. So this is not put out by anybody. I'm just saying we might see, if we do decide to travel, that we might be required to wear a certain type of mask. Or, if you are in an enclosed space or whatnot, you might be wearing this type of mask. They might be a little bit more expensive, but to be honest with you, they talked about the cost. They're just about the same price of like an N95 mask. And I think that's really fascinating that we're seeing the advances in technology and a quick kind of pivot to then implanting or using the RNA, the DNA of the COVID-19 virus, and having that be a part of a resource, a tool that we can use to either diagnostically assess safety and then also use for our own safety purposes. So that's really fascinating. The other thing that is happening is companies are starting to roll out thermal imaging and the kind of thermal technology where you walk through, a scanner, let's say, a big office building. Instead of having, somebody standing there, masked up in PPE taking temperature, that they'd have this kind of unit people walk through and it does a whole scan and it says, okay, you've got, temperature or not. The problem with that, and this is where this MIT Harvard bioengineering lab, they're producing this new, they're working on a new prototype for COVID specific, this mask that'll light up. What we need to get around the fact that we have hundreds and thousands of individuals walking around asymptomatic, and we don't know that. And viral particles, the viral shed, that we could pick up if they cough, sneeze, or have some sort of respiratory droplet on another person or on a mask. This technology could be fast forwarded. You could have somebody breathe on, like when you go to TSA, and like I usually travel with my camera bag and sometimes my equipment. Sometimes I have to get the little, they put the little paper on to make sure you have no firearms or whatever. One time I didn't realize after our wedding shower or bridal shower that I had sea salt, and like that like set off all the alarms. So they had to like scan my sea salt and whatever. Well, that could very well play into this paper, this technology. That might be something that, people breathe on or have some sort of way of assessing, and it instantly lights up. So, this could have broader, expansive impact. That's really exciting. I think I really was excited to report that. I think that has a good possibility of helping all of us. So, and what I want to highlight today, and what we're going to dig into, is some correspondence that was published out of the New England Journal of Medicine. And it's a focus on the impact, the multi-organ impact of the virus and the organs impacted. So essentially what it looks as it is what organs are most susceptible, and the underlying organ, the most impactful organ, apart from the heart and vascular channels, are actually the kidneys. So we know, and I've been reporting this since we started getting the data, the renal function is getting heavily targeted, and it's actually the most common COVID-19 target. So these cells, the viral cells, infiltrate all pockets of the kidney. So the kidney is like a little kidney bean, and there's, little kind of woven pockets. They even go back in autopsy cases of the kidneys from COVID-19 patients, and they identify the whole entire kidney has been infiltrated with this virus. The virus does employ cellular changes. We see the functionality change. And just under the microscopic focus, like they literally put it under a microscope. So these little slides are actually kidney cells under a microscope. And what they look at is some of the actual folds of the kidneys have been impacted, and they're inflamed. And the co-infections are often kidney related, or the dysfunction. So not only do we see the lack of oxygen really draining the kidneys, but the virus itself attacks the kidneys. So this is an expansion of what we know. In New York, where 80% of the cases who go on ventilation don't make it. Part of it is the lack of oxygen. They're also on ventilation, and then they're also on the kidney dialysis. And there's a whole bunch of other things that occur. But what they wanted to do is they wanted to identify the viral load on the kidneys, and it's quite great. So they actually say the kidneys are among the most common targets of SARS-CoV-2. They performed silico analysis of publicly available data sets of single cell RNA sequencing. So they use all this data that's in this clearinghouse. And then they identify through the analysis that the ACE2, this enzyme, the transmembrane serine protease 2, and the capsaicin L, it's CTSL. These genes are, what happens is ultimately the attack on the kidneys turns on some genes. So it triggers this whole infiltration of the kidneys and kidney injuries. So this is significant. What we're seeing is, a lot of very ill patients that have kidney failure, renal failure. And again, going back to Moonstone, our video sponsor, the creators of this formula. So this is a liquid powder, and they also have a liquid. So these are little liquid packs or powder packs you put in water, super easy, tastes fantastic. This was made by nephrologists who are actually practicing. They're in medicine, and they're practicing right now at NYU. They're working on these COVID patients. And part of my communication with the company has been a little delayed because the doctors are working. And so that is really key when we look at the role of the kidneys. It's not just the respiratory tract, and it's not just the heart or the brain, it's also the kidneys. So with that being said, I want to know how many of you on our chat have ever dealt with any type of kidney dysfunction. Either you have diagnosed renal failure or renal disease, or have had bouts of kidney stones. I'm curious to kind of get a sense of who all's on. Lori says, can you take Moonstone just to tone kidneys, even if you don't have stones? Absolutely. So I've only had one time in my life when I was in Japan. I had a kidney infection, and I may have had a stone, I don't know, but oh my gosh, it was horrible. And one of the things that this Moonstone actually has is the alkali citrate. It helps dissolve and break up the mineral salts that can cluster. And I have patients who don't even know they have kidney stones, but when we get CTs of their MRIs or CT scans of their kidneys, they actually showcase they've got larger stones. And so the likelihood of that, it greatly reduces. So if there's any type of kidney dysfunction, this is very impactful. So, you guys know I love my Chanca Piedra. That's my herbal. This is another kind of layer to that, where you've got the alkali citrate. The alkali citrate actually prevents the formation, which is fantastic. So, and the Chanca Piedra will break up. It just disintegrates the stones. It's fantastic. I get lots of reviews from men and women who use that, and they're like, I urinated and there's like sediment, but I had no passing of a stone. And then they go back and the stones are gone. So one of the things that is critical is for us to kind of assess first. I want to go over what our kidneys do. Okay, so kidneys there's a big factor and a big role in the kidneys eliminating waste. So we know that they get rid of excess fluid and they process out waste. So they're a filtration process. And if you think about, like, we change our air filters, we should change our air filters regularly. Well, are we filtering out and clearing out our kidneys? Not always. And so a Moonstone and a Chanca Piedra would be a really good combination to add to, the mix if you are not plagued with those stones or any type of recurrent formation of stones. I will say that one of the challenges in the keto diet world, because a lot of people go keto, is the development of stones. Partially, there's that kind of detoxification. We have imbalances in some of the mineral content. So making sure you have a good, strong multi-mineral in your daily diet is helpful. But the urine production from the kidney process focus is to excrete waste. And so it's all about excreting waste, but also balancing chemicals within the body. So there's a regulation between salt and potassium, and then also the acid content. So it's about pH balancing and keeping hormones functioning as well. So there's a kidney hormone function. The other thing that the kidneys do is they regulate the red blood cell production. And this is critical when we think about our body's capacity to function, our body's capacity to get nutrients to our cells, oxygen to our cells. So red blood cells are transport cells. They help nourish and support our whole entire body. And then the other thing that some of the hormones within the kidneys that are, kidney does produce hormones. And it also is a big factor in the vitamin D production as well. There's that liver-kidney connection. But the kidneys also regulate blood pressure. So we know in COVID-19, an underlying factor is high blood pressure. So hypertension can be triggered by the virus. And so it has a kidney impact and an increase in the blood pressure. But also there's a calcium metabolism. So kidneys control the body's capacity to metabolize, absorb calcium. When we get stones, where Moonstone, our video sponsor, targets, the alkali citrate that helps minimize that formation. So there's some folks are more prone to the calcium, and there's different types of stones. So, I've worked with folks who had the stones analyzed, and, some are calcium based and others are not. Some are a way of the kidneys dissolving junk and bacteria. So there's a lot of intricacies to stones themselves, but that calcium metabolism is a big role. And so a lot of folks that might be I see a lot of comments on here, problems with kidney stones. Dad had a history of kidney stones, very common. It is a terrible, terrible pain. They attribute it worse to child labor for anybody who has had to pass them, which is god awful. I can't even imagine. So the thing that we need to know is that the kidneys control all different types of things. So they control waste, they remove drugs, so medication that we're taking, they balance our fluid levels. So any of my lymphatic patients, we have to assess kidney function. And I need to make sure when I'm working with those individuals that they're being analyzed and the kidney function is proper, because I can inadvertently flush too much fluid out through the lymphatics and put strain on the kidneys, which is a big factor that I want to talk about, because our hydration levels are critical, but it's how we hydrate that's most important. And this may or may not make a whole lot of sense to folks, but as I explain it, I hope it does. So every day, your kidneys are filtering out about 40 gallons of fluid. That's a lot of fluid. And we know we're not drinking 40 gallons of fluid, but we have blood, we have lymphatic waste, we have a lot of fluid. 85% of our body is fluid based. We're water based. So when we're drinking hydration, we want to make sure that, like, when you take a drink, like I'll take a drink of the Moonstone, I've just filled my whole entire mouth and then I swallow. I'm not gulping this down. This is critical. So when we hydrate, to minimize the strain on the kidneys and also the level of fluid that's in the blood, we need to level out our hydration. So what you want to make sure is that you're hydrating and taking sips. And by the way, I also have my stress suppressed tea and my caffeine and quarantine mug. So I have both of these items here. I made this morning. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you're not just gulping down a lot. And I see this at the gym. I haven't worked out in several, 10 weeks, 11 weeks. But I've noticed that ladies will just like down a whole entire, 30-ounce jug of water. That's a lot of strain on the kidneys. And so you actually strain your kidneys more when you flush it with fluid, then supporting the right levels. And every, 5-10 minutes, taking a big sip maintains these levels. So you actually minimize the effort the kidneys have to output. That sounds super easy, but it's one of those things that is critical, that we just slowly and gradually hydrate. You just don't, go without liquids for 4 hours and then consume 30 ounces to make up for it. What you want to do is you want to try and consume about a glass and a half, depending on your intake and requirement, of water every hour, every waking hour. And so you want to make sure that you are hydrating properly and in the right way. And one of the obviously one of the most impactful ways to assess your kidney function is first thing in the morning when you urinate. You want to look at the color. You want to see, is there any cloudiness? Cloudiness can tell you a little bit about your kidney function. Also, sometimes there can be an odor, and that can tell us a little bit about the kidney function. So, I see folks like Carrie Friedel saying, I've carried a water bottle with me since 1996. That's fantastic. And it becomes really critical that we look at hydrating and keeping the right hydration level. So that's actually tip number 1 for maintaining good, healthy kidney function. The other thing within the COVID-19, and if you have it or you have a family member who is dealing with it, you also need more hydration when you have an elevated body temperature. So it becomes even more critical that patients who are convalescing at home or even in a hospital, minor hospital setting, not in ICU, but maybe they're getting breathing, that they hydrate throughout the hour. and maintain hydration. And a lot of us don't hydrate enough. I mean, you can tell, when you grab your skin, you want to have some suppleness to it. You can also tell, like, I feel like I can tell if I'm hydrated if, like, right here, I'm seeing wrinkles. That's like my own body sign. I can look and go, oh, I'm dehydrated without even seeing urine color. The other thing too is if you don't urinate every 2 or 3 hours, that's not always a good sign of good waste fluid flushing, the excretion of waste. So there are some ways to evaluate without even going into the labs of how well you're performing. The first step is to optimize your hydration in a healthy way. You want to be maximizing your hydration, but you want to level it out throughout the day. So you're just constantly hydrating and you're constantly in a state of hydration, optimal hydration. So that's number one. The second is actually food-based. So I'm seeing a lot of questions about let's see, let me take, my little mouse is charging. And I have to plug in Instagram. Hold on, Instagram, let me plug you in. You have to get a little charge here. Okay, so let's see, that should fire up. Okay, I see questions about, isn't fresh lemon juice good for kidney stones and hot sauces? Is there any correlation between hot sauce and kidney stones? So, I do like lemon water in the morning. It is not something that I would be targeting for a kidney stone per se. Like I would use more targeted, like the Moonstone for sure. Our video sponsor Moonstone. I would definitely use the alkali citric acid or the alkali citrate. But also what we find that is one of the best foods, and you can even juice this. I have a lot of patients that will do these juicing cleanses. Asparagus. And if any of you, like usually we end up, sometimes we'll go to one of these, nice steak restaurants, and I love big asparagus that's been grilled. I have yet to master how to make it wonderful. I'm actually growing asparagus in my garden. When you eat it, like sometimes within 30 or 40 minutes, you're like, holy cow, when you urinate, it has an odor. That is a cleansing detox filter cleanser. So asparagus specifically is one of the best vegetables that you can eat to support your kidneys. And I love it. It breaks up uric acid levels. It helps maintain proper function between all the little kind of circular folds of the kidneys. And it also serves as a diuretic, which is good because it flushes out fluid. When people have edema or water retention or swelling, and this could be mild, it could be related to like a cyst, work with a lot of women who have cysts on their ovaries. Well, that can cause some lower leg, foot, ankle swelling. Minor. It's something we don't even register. There is a lymph connection. Your kidney function will aid in reducing the swelling. So any of you who are dealing with any type of lymphatic dysfunction or have swollen feet, swollen ankles, cankles, and that's also, an ode back to like when we look at pregnancy, a lot of women, because of just, where the baby grows, the kidneys get all moved out. Sometimes pregnant women don't have the best of kidney function. And it's not uncommon for us to see a lot of pregnant women have kidney stones. And also the coupling of cankles, swollen feet, swollen legs, ankles, toes. That is partly lymphatic, but it's also the functionality of the kidneys. And so kidney health, we need to hydrate and we need to have our optimal levels, but we need to eat foods that are beneficial. And one of the things that we see with like the keto diet, which a lot of people are on, and I'm not inherently against it. I've practiced it in my own life, but not to the extreme. The extreme keto can often yield kidney stones. It can sometimes be a little too traumatizing to the kidneys because the kidneys also play a role in processing and filtering out some of the proteins that we have in our diet. So when we look at the kidney function, we look at potential complications or in non-infections, but other systems or processes that get impaired. So we'll have different stages of what we call renal disease or chronic kidney disease. It can get kicked up by damage, injury, high blood pressure, diabetes can trigger. So there can be, a primary condition, and then a secondary condition can be the renal impact. So if you have diabetes, high blood pressure, you take more than 3 or 4 pharmaceuticals on a daily basis, because we know there's a drug impact on the kidneys. If you have any parathyroid challenges, or even, the metabolism of protein, or you've had where you do a urine test and they say we see some protein in your urine. And many of us, when we're pregnant, we're always, doing a urine sample. That's what they're looking for. When they do that for women, they're assessing the kidney function. But we know some of the complications with the onset of chronic kidney disease can be anemia. So iron function, we can directly look at if you have, poor, inadequate iron absorption or high ferritin levels, but you're anemic, then we need to look at the kidneys. The other thing is blood pressure levels. We need to also target the kidneys. Calcium challenges. So maybe you have bone density scans that are decreased. We need to look at the kidneys at that, because we know that calcium absorption is partially managed by the kidneys. The other thing that we want to look at is if anybody has any type of congestive heart failure, any hypercalcemia, any of the hyperparathyroidism, or the parathyroids are triggered. That can sometimes be from a cyst, a goiter, glandular dysfunction. Sometimes hyperthyroid, Hashimoto's can be a factor in that. Metabolic acidosis, malabsorption of certain nutrients, low vitamin D levels. So those are things that we look for. But there's correlations between medications you're taking, kidney function, correlation between diabetes and kidney function, heart disease, kidney function, lung function, kidney disease. So for instance, asthma. So I have a lot of folks that really responded well to yesterday's video, which, by the way, there's an edited video out about the best way to cough. So there's coughing the right way to expel phlegm and mucus from your lungs. Watch that video. But I had a lot of people say, I have asthma, and I was doing that and I coughed up gunk. Well, asthmatic folks that have asthma, it's in the bronchial region. That's part of the lung tissue. And so if you suffer from chronic asthma and you are monitoring, let's see, I have my little my pulse ox. If you're monitoring your pulse, your oxygen levels through a monitor we put on your fingers, and you are in the lower range, lower 90s, that's something you want to address. There's a kidney connection. So when we have low oxygen, it'll affect the kidneys. And we call that triangle, kidneys, lungs, and heart, the golden triangle. I reference that a lot. And so I just want to clarify that too for a lot of you. And, in the world of kidney function, there's a lot of testing. So we will have a test. It's a GFR. And the GFR is a value. It's usually a little e and then capital GFR. You can look at your CBC panel. You can look at your labs. And that's an evaluation of your kidney function. And in fact, I printed out one of the tables. So this table will identify your value of the eGFR, where you're at in your staging. And one of the things that I became very aware of kidney function and kidney disease, I learned about it in school, but I didn't learn about it until I took over the care of my grandmother, who was in her 90s. I ended up, when I moved home to start my business, she was also in need of some care. So I moved in, helped her, started my business. And she was my first true like patient that we turned around. I got her off insulin. She lost a whole bunch of weight. Kidney function was better. But one of the things that when I would go to her doctor, her regular internist he tried to manage some of the diabetes unsuccessfully. Letitia, $20. She says, "Good morning, Dr. Melissa. Don't forget to do thumbs up, like, and share this video, everyone." Thank you. Super chat. Yay. Woo, woo, woo. Made my morning. Thank you. Thank you. So one of the things I noticed, and Letitia, I'm so grateful for your super chat. That totally helps support our channel. One of the things, friends, like on your labs, a lot of times the second and third page of your labs will be where the kidney function lab work is. And what I was finding when I went with my grandmother to her doctor's appointments, he was only looking at, he'd have her file, and literally this a long time ago, 10, 15 years ago, but it was like 15, 17 years ago. He would have her chart out, paper chart, and he'd have the latest labs, and he'd just look at the first page, and he'd be like, "Okay, so I see your glucose level, insulin, C-reactive protein, what other measurements he was looking for." And I'd say, well, I'd get a copy, and I'd say, well, can we look at the second page or the third page? And I will look at these values. And literally, he was not monitoring as closely her kidney function. And she actually leveled, like based on the eGFR, she leveled down a stage. She went from like 2 to 3 in staging, and she had moderate kidney disease. And to be honest with you, at the end of the day, when her health really declined, it was her kidney function that was the fatal factor. And it was the golden triangle that we were trying to address, but the kidneys took a greater hit. And I think it's an area that gets missed a lot by a lot of clinicians because we're so forward-minded about hypertension and diabetes that we don't always assess the tertiary role, the tertiary organ we need to address are the kidneys. And so that becomes really critical. And I will, at some point, I actually might post this on my Instagram, just a picture of this, but I have a chart of what you want your levels to be. So, a good, healthy, average eGFR based on your age should be in these levels. And as we age, you see, we have decline. Everyday use, the filtration process, we do expect some decrease in your kidney function. But to optimize your kidney function, I think it's critical that you hydrate in an appropriate, calm, consistent manner. And Moonstone, by the way, I have an Amazon link in the description box below. So you guys can grab this. This is today's video sponsor. They're so awesome. Nephrologist out of NYU, working with COVID-19 patients and supporting kidneys all over the US and the world. But they have liquids, they've got the powders. So Lori says, just ordered Moonstone, getting it tomorrow. Yay. We love that. So good. And it's really tasty. I'm drinking the tropical. They also have the cranberry raspberry. I can't handle raspberry, but I love papaya. I love the orangey fruits. So good. Okay. Alrighty. So this, based on your age, the eGFR is a critical number. So if you guys have any labs or you've had recent labs, do yourself a favor, call up your doctor, log into your, electronic medical record and pull your labs and look and see where's your kidney function at. Because if you are dipping, if you are, let's say 28 and you are in, the low 100s or, you're in the 90s, you're well below your level that you want to be. And that's an indicator. Now, there are things that contribute to that. Alcohol consumption, not great for your kidneys. Caffeine is another thing that can impact the kidneys. Acidic diets, high protein diets. And protein, when I look at protein, there's two levels. There's plant-based protein, which is a lot less aggressive for the body and the kidneys to filter and process. And then there's animal-based protein. So not all proteins equal, but again, high protein diets tend to be a little bit more of a strain on the kidneys. And when we look at the kidneys, the third and final, and I've seen a few people already kind of leaning this way, so you guys know where I go. The kidneys, it's all about those darn little adrenals. So the little adrenal gland, it sits on top of the kidneys. It's like a little tortilla. It's like a little wig if you look at the kidneys. And I need to get the plush kidney doll and the adrenal doll so you can see what they look like. But essentially, the adrenal gland, our fight or flight gland, sits on top of the kidneys, both of them. So that's a little triangle, it sits on top of them. If you are stressed out, if you are dealing with fight or flight, which if you are just tuning in today, this is one of multiple videos where I talk about the role of stress, pandemic stress, survival related stress, emotional, mental, physical, financial stress, medical stress, all of the stressors. That plays a direct role on your kidney function. And so when the adrenals are stressed out, your kidneys are going to be stressed out. That's why stress is an underlying factor with kidney dysfunction. It's an underlying factor of kidney function, kidney stones. Stress is a factor there. It's a factor in high blood pressure. Kidneys control that. Fluid retention. One of the things emotionally, when we look at lymphatic patients or anybody holding fluid, that is translated into what emotions are you holding on to? What are you not releasing? What are you not letting go of? Who or what are you not letting flow in and out of your life? And that is an emotional connection, but it's a stressor. And so if you find yourself holding on, if you mentally go through some processes of releasing, you'll actually support your kidneys in that mental emotional connection. And the kidneys are also in what we describe as the solar plexus. They're the core. It's a yellow oriented color, and it is the core of who we are. It connects the lower and upper halves of the body emotionally and energetically. And the kidneys play a big, big role in our overall health and wellness. So there is an adrenal function to your kidney state and kidney function. Angelica K says, my diet is high in protein. So I'd ask what type of protein because of my gastric sleeve surgery. I'm curious about my kidney function. So that is an excellent question. I would make sure that your high protein is primarily coming from plant-based protein. And we live in an amazing world now where getting plant-based proteins really darn easy. Like this morning, tomorrow I'll share with you guys. I love, and I order them online. They come to my house. I don't have to shop for them anymore at the grocery store. But I get these really high dense plant-based protein chocolate drinks. And they're really clean. They also have like reishi mushroom in them. They're so delicious. And I'll see if I can work on getting like a coupon code from the company. So I have a relationship with them through my work. But one of the things that is critical is that the high protein, when it comes from plant-based protein, your body's better adept at digesting that food. So if you are eating a high animal-based protein diet, make sure that 30 minutes before you eat it, you have some digestive enzyme that you take that helps break that down. That will help minimize it. Okay, so Lori says Moonstone, and this, by the way, is our video sponsor, Moonstone. I'm drinking their drink. This is a really amazing kidney drink that enhances kidney function. It has 30 MEQs of alkali citrate. And the message on the box is, studies have shown that alkali citrate from naturally occurring mineral salts may prevent the formation of kidney stones. And the kidneys naturally detoxify the body, they regulate blood pressure, and fulfill other vital functions. And this is low calorie. There's no sugar in here. There's 95 milligrams of sodium, 4% potassium, 45% magnesium, and 210% vitamin B6, which is great. So they've got a lot of good stuff in here. And I love that too. B complexes are critically in need. The adrenals and the kidneys need optimal B levels. That's another aspect too. Okay, so the link, protein drink, I don't have that right now, but I promise I will get it. I'll highlight it in tomorrow's video. Tomorrow's going to be a live Q&A. So I'll post this morning on the community tab, and then, ask your specific questions. I'll have them printed out, but I'll drink my protein drink with you guys. Artsy Galore, hello, good morning. I have frequent urination. Will Moonstone be safe to take? Yes, it is. It is very safe. And in fact, the frequent urination, depending on, bladder function, bladder control, and your hydration levels, that can be normal. Sometimes we think we're urinating too frequently, and actually that's a healthy sign. Like every 2 or 3 hours, you want to be urinating. And then, Kegels can help at least strengthen up some of the muscle, the pelvic floor, which is a whole nother thing. But I do also want to address one of the things that I have, and I saw some folks notate, there are a lot of different kidney related health issues that people can have. One of the most common, especially in men, and we had a viewer a few days ago where I had asked, I kind of speculated. Sometimes I get a sense of like what's going on. Sure enough, her husband had indicated one of the kidneys had 20% function, which means we can actually get the functionality levels. I don't have the chart here, but there's another chart that we assess that looks at function in the kidney disease. You can have kidney injury. So the kidneys sit right back here, right back in this region. If you have ever been in a car accident, or you have had any type of mid-torso injury, this could be from sports, it could be from contact sports, it could be from, a jarring experience, whatever that might be, that can play a role in the kidney function. The other thing too is some people genetically have things like cysts all around their kidneys. And I've dealt with a lot of, we call it polycystic kidney disease. So just like with the ovaries, they have a little cyst, they'll have a little cyst, and sometimes they rupture. They can be very painful. I worked with a lot of individuals, actually a famous professional who has that, but we were able to manage that through the work that we did together. Thanks, Lori. She says that today is the best info. Yay. So one of the things that we have to address is there may be injury, and there can also be scar tissue. And then going even further than that, we have to look at our alignment. So our spinal alignment, if you have rotated discs, bulging discs, or any type of spinal challenge in or above the solar plexus, so in and above, so the thoracic all the way up to the cervical spine, we have electrical senses. So our central nervous system is basically like the hardwiring electrical circuitry. When there is misalignments in the spine and, the bony structure and also the fluid and the tissue, scoliosis is a big part of it. And I'm very transparent. I have scoliosis. I'm doing PT. I do work on myself at home. This might also be a factor for your kidney function. And so I put that out there because I think it's important for us to look at the bigger picture. And it's not always just stone development, or it's not just like diabetes that's the only thing. It's a multitude of things that we have to address and target. And, UTIs are totally separate, but UTIs can cause kidney infections. And I will say, to my grandma, for all of you who've been watching through this, I kind of highlighted, the end of life challenges we had. And I was her kind of medical surrogate. She had chronic kidney infections for as long as I remember. And my grandma was 98 when she passed. She lived a very fabulous life. I love that woman so much. I still get choked up thinking about her, but she had kidney, she didn't have kidney stones, but she had kidney infections frequently, and infections can damage the kidneys. And we definitely did see that in her life, where the kidney function was decreased. And, diabetes can create infections, and it can create a poorly functioning vascular flow that heals the body. But it was really, really, and I'm sorry, you guys, I don't usually talk about her because it's so emotional, but I used to take her out for hamburgers and beer, and she would hit on young bartenders and slap them on their butts. Like, she was the coolest lady. She loved bourbon, pretty much straight up, and lived life to the fullest. So she taught me so many amazing things about life, and I have just nothing but happy memories of her. But, kidney disease is definitely something that we have to take seriously. So Instagram, you're going to tune out, come back in on the other half. All right. I'll see you guys on the other side. You guys are so sweet. Caesar Mignola. We have a new member. All right. Let's see. Instagram, we'll pull them up and I'll answer some questions. And then I know we're over the hour time. Holly's Conley says, just got out of the hospital. E. coli infection got into my left kidney. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. So that is an example of, an extreme situation where you can have bacteria that transitions up. The question is, did they have sometimes some of those types of bacteria can get in through catheterization. And I see this more so with my men, especially that have prostate issues and are catheterized. Let me get Instagram back. Hey, Instagram, welcome back for part 2 of our live kidney health discussion. I just want to highlight again, we have a video sponsor, Moonstone. This is a powder drink. They also have liquid drink, all online. I can connect you to that in the description box below. And if you guys want to DM me, I'll connect you to the Amazon link. But this is a powder, and it's a daily kidney support powder that you can drink. And I put 16 ounces of the water to this powder, and it has alkali citrate, which is so fantastic for minimizing the buildup of stones in your kidneys. So we were talking a little bit about, infections. You can have kidney infections. We have a viewer on YouTube who has E. coli, had an infection, left kidney, E. coli has traveled up and has affected the kidneys. And that is a real tough situation because that bacteria is not meant to be in that. We have, particularly in the bladder itself, we have a microbiota, and it can cause interstitial cystitis and things like that. So hugs to, I think Holly was her name, Halls Conley. Okay. So, the spinal alignment's critical. I daily foam roll up my back. And so I have a video, if you guys want to watch it. It didn't get a lot of credibility, or not credibility, a lot of views because it came out during Christmas time, but I actually show of how to foam roll to actually get greater alignment and to open up those discs. Now, this obviously you would not do if you've got herniated disc or there's any impairments, but just keeping good alignment. The other thing, strengthening those small muscles that run along the spine are critical. But the other thing, big factor is the adrenal gland, are your adrenals. And so reducing stress, and I'll link to these, like my homeopathic adrenal drops. I love these. I'm about halfway through my bottle and I got it like a week and a half ago, but this literally I stick under my tongue. I let it dissolve. And this is targeted. It has a whole bunch of homeopathics, but it says for the temporary relief of lethargy, lack of energy, sadness, anxiousness, or decreased ability to handle stress. And I totally felt like that was about me 2 weeks ago. But that's also indicative of kidneys. And so kidneys can get fired up. They can get a little hot. Sometimes there's involvement, kidney function, and night sweats, which is another factor. So I definitely want to put this out there that there are a lot of things that you want to address with kidneys. Hydrating thoroughly, asparagus, weekly have asparagus on your menu or, dietary plan. You can juice asparagus. That's fantastic to intake. I don't know any over-the-counter asparagus juices. So you do have to do that on your own, but that is very powerful. And then the most important is supporting your adrenal glands, because when the adrenals are happy, your kidneys are a lot happier. And then also the cortisol and all of the hormone dysfunction from the cortisol, the stress hormone, that also burdens the kidneys. And so it's just this vicious cycle. It's like we're hamsters on a wheel and we have to slow it down and get off the wheel and balance our bodies. Carrie Lauren, please talk about calcium phosphate stones. Also, if there's evidence long-term damage to kidneys from COVID. Well, unfortunately, COVID is so new. We don't have long-term reports, but the expectation, so a lot of the folks who have had kidney damage, depending obviously on the nature of it, we know they are needing dialysis and might need long-term dialysis. The other thing that has been commented on in the clinical world is that we're seeing potentially a shortening of the lifespan of these individuals just due to the stress, but also the breakdown. The other thing too that they were finding is the lack of oxygen. It starves the kidneys. And so kidneys need, if kidneys are the fire, the lungs are feeding the fire. And so when lung support decreases, you don't have enough function. So oxygen is what moves the kidneys, gets them functioning and flowing to filter. And so you need the lungs to be proper. And just by nature, pneumonia, any type of pneumonia will strain, it puts more strain on the kidneys. Even more important to hydrate well, because that's an infection. You'll have, an increase in your temperature. So let's see, Moonstone, does it help urinary tract infections? So this specifically, the items in it are targeted for stone makers or folks that have traditional type of calcium-oriented stones. And so that does minimize it. As far as urinary tract infections, the major thing that you want to do is to identify what type of bacteria are you dealing with. And sometimes it's unfortunately a really uncomfortable culture of the bladder, because it's not uncommon for me to have reports that I'm reviewing of patients who have E. coli or some sort of other bacteria that shouldn't be in the bladder. And in fact, the antibiotics make it worse. And so you get these antibiotic strains of these really intense bacteria that exist in an environment they're not meant to exist. And sometimes that can be as simple as how we're cleansing ourselves after, urination or a bowel movement. But then it's also just something that can occur based on other underlying health conditions. Okay, Kathy from Texas. I have an adrenal tumor, which the doctor says it's not uncommon to see in autopsy reports. And for me to take a weight and monitor, ? Okay, so lots of questions there, Kathy, with a tumor on her adrenals. That is common. We don't see it as much because the medical community doesn't really focus in on adrenals, but we do, and I use labs to assess. So there's probably some skewed values on labs. The question is it revving up your blood pressure? Are you producing more creatinine, or are you seeing any more protein in the urine in terms of kidney function? And location, where is it located? Some of the tumors, depending on what they are, you can treat them by nourishing the adrenals. The other thing is castor oil packing your back. Castor oil pack's really great for reducing tumors, but depending on the area. So depending on that area, STDs affecting the kidneys? ? Not so much in they infect them, but it can strain your immune system depending on what type of STD you're dealing with. Some of the more common, like a herpes simplex, technically no, but we know we do see sometimes excretions. I would say, let me just backtrack. I would say depending on the STD would depend on the degree of kidney impact, but overall, it's more immune related. I hope that makes sense. Okay. How do I get in touch with you for dear friend who has kidney problems and dialysis? So usually my email is on all of the description box below. Right now, I'm not seeing any new patients. Just because of the timing, the clinic's closed, and I'm homeschooling my little man, which, by the way, we're going to make some donuts next. How fun. Let's see, do bladder infections cause kidney infections? They can. So Darlene asks, do bladder infections cause kidney infections? Depending on the type, they can. There is a traveling method. Women have shorter tubes, if you will, from the kidneys down to the bladder, so it can travel very quickly. That, in my own personal experience, one time only I've ever had this happen. I felt intense pain in the bladder, and then like the following morning, like 8 hours later, I felt intense pain in the kidneys. And when you have a kidney infection, like even touching the back, it will send you off the table. Very, very intense. Nicole, oh, I'm so sorry, Nicole. She said, my mom passed away at the beginning of March from kidney failure. I had no idea it could possibly be related to COVID-19. So the question, Nicole, if you're curious about it, you might be able to have a post, an autopsy of her, depending on if that's possible. But yes, COVID is definitely impacting the kidneys, and they're starting to look at the number. So the idea of the numbers, and that's a really big thing right now. There's, one group that wants to lower the numbers. Others want to really identify these co-infections or COVID-related issues. We know it does affect the kidney. So there could be people dying of kidney failure and kidney disease that we're not really assessing with COVID-19. Same with the strokes, heart attacks, and folks that are dying in their homes of blood clots and things like that. Those are now, as long as we test them, those are now being factored into that, or should be. That's at least what the idea. Can you show the kidney reflexology point on hands like you did the adrenal? So very similar. I will do a specific kidney video for that. Let's see, since my state, Iowa, doesn't recognize Indy and you don't take new patients, where should I go? That's a good question. I know not all of people like me, naturopaths, are virtual. They asked me about autopsy at the time, but I declined. You might, if your mom was not cremated, you might be able to go back and say, I've thought about it and I'm curious. March, we've learned a lot since March, and it's also, you're grieving. If you're interested, I'd pursue it personally. I'm also really curious. Edward Casey believed in castor oil packs. Yeah. Castor oil packs. We love, love, love. Good for the kidneys too. Is chocolate okay for kidneys? Lori, that's a good question. In general, what you want to do is you want to eat a chocolate that has minimal amount of dairy and lowest amount of sugar. Higher, kind of chocolate benefits, if you will, 90, 91% chocolate, the darky chocolate has the beneficial properties. There are bioflavonoids that are beneficial with chocolate. Sometimes there's caffeine. Keisha Hardwick, thank you for the $5 super chat. Thank you. She asks, my preteen and teenage brothers have deep yellow to orange urine. The oldest also complains of back pain. What does that mean in terms of the kidney function? So deep yellow orange urine, at least in this interim, would mean that they're dehydrated. If they aren't taking a B complex, because that's another thing, a lot of times we'll excrete Bs if we're not using them. But in that deep yellow orange, I would want to make sure that they're hydrating thoroughly throughout the day. The other question, especially with teens and boys, are they in any sports? Contact sports like definitely football. So football, there's a lot of hitting. Football players have a lot of kidney related challenges. And I've worked with those folks as well after retirement in the professional world. So that would be a factor. So I'd want to make sure we don't have any injury, but hydration would be the first point. So hydrate. Often teenage boys, especially if they're outside, it's not always something they're totally mindful of hydrating, but that would be the big factor. And it might also depend on the time of the day. But if there's complaining of back pain, there also might be some adrenals, but the kidneys can also, you can feel that. So dehydration is number one. And that's why I had it on this list. If you tap, like if you palpate, if you tap on their, space, basically it's that last rib cage. the kidneys are kind of tucked in and below that. If you tap on that with your hands, if it's extremely painful, it might be kidney infection related. Generally, there's blood related with kidney infections. But what I would do first and foremost is get them drinking water versus soda. So I know a lot of kids are drinking soda. So, hydrating with good water. Kidney donor affecting kidney function, ? I'm not quite sure what that means, Mercy, but kidneys. So if a kidney has been donated, there's also that impact too of the, adaptation of the new kidney and working with the new body. The challenge there is that a lot of organ transplants also are on medications to not reject the organ. So it takes a little bit of time. Let's see. I get awful back pain. No doctor ever touched my back to test, just diagnose IBS and PMS. So, for me, I always know my adrenals are bothering me when I get, even now I can palpate and it's tender. And it's a difference between like a muscular tender and it just feels like it's just not happy. But sometimes it's like an aching pain. But there's a lot going on in that space. So I know my body really well, and I know all those areas. Not everybody has that body conscious or connectivity to like where, things are located, but I definitely always hydrating. Asparagus, Keisha, I would have them eating lots of asparagus. The tips are a little, depending on how you make it, they're a lot easier, definitely fibrous, but the asparagus would greatly help flush. And there might be a little bit more uric acid that they're dealing with. B3 niacin with flush. It depends on the supplement. Sometimes there are non-flushing B3s. I have one liquid sublingual that is not, and oh my gosh, sometimes I will flare, like my lips get red. You have like hives. It can be really terrible, itchy. Let's see. Okay, so kidney function. Yes, kidney. So Janice asked, does kidney function naturally decrease with age? Yes, the answer is yes, it does. And in fact, like this little chart here, the numbers, your EGFR, they decrease with age. So it is expected. However, I always like to be optimal. And so ideally, if you want to maintain optimal kidney levels, you'd want to be making sure, like, if you are, in your 60s, you want to have the levels of a 50-year-old or even a 40-year-old. And so some of the ways you do that, stones are a factor. Moonstone's a great product to incorporate. This happens to be a powder that you add into water like this. They also have liquid. They have the honey ginger that I think is fantastic. I would totally recommend that. And the good news is the product like this, Moonstone, it's been researched and analyzed and derived from clinicians. So these are nephrologists. These are kidney doctors out of NYU, and they're on the COVID floor right now. And these guys are hustling, men and ladies, they're hustling to work with and deal with the impact of COVID-19 in the kidney, in the organ that they're honed in on, and it's kidneys. I don't know anything right now of any research yet about any kidney stone connectivity with COVID, but we do know that when autopsied, the whole entire kidney showcases infiltration and infection, and part of it's the ACE2, the receptor site, so that enzyme, and the ACE. It's a long term. The E is for enzyme. So we had a lot of confusion the other day when I was like, the enzyme or the receptor. So we have receptors, and this ACE2, that's an actual enzyme. But the receptors, that's what COVID really hones in on and targets and attacks. Letitia, my estimate level is 107. So that is ideal for the age range of 30 to 39. 107. So 107. 30 to 39. So Letitia, I don't know your age, but if you are 30 to 39, that's ideal. If you are younger than that, if you're in your 20s, which, by the way, if you're in your 20s, wear lots of sunscreen and moisturize your face. That's my recommendation. And eat lots of collagen. Your body will thank you later on. But in your 30s, so if you're in your 30s, if you're in your 40s, you're in a more optimal range. Cupcake Paper says $4.99 super chat. Thank you. She says, you are a brilliant gift to us every morning. Oh, that's so thoughtful. I appreciate you. Robert, is it possible to heal yourself from stage 3 kidney failure and come off dialysis? That's an excellent question. Everybody's body is different. I will tell you that. I have seen decreases in staging, but there's a lot at play. It's diet, it's lifestyle, and then a really core factor is antioxidant levels and even some of the stem cell work. Stem cells, I highlighted a little bit about the mouse. Now we've got human embryos, or a mouse embryo is growing human stem cells. This is phenomenal in the stem cell world. It's a huge breakthrough. But what that tells us is that there's a greater chance that we might be able to actually rejuvenate those cells. The other thing that we need to know, for any of you who have any type of staging of anything, every cell in our body rejuvenates. And because of that, and I'd reference this one book. It's called, what is it? I have to look this up. It is deep. I actually went and saw him with this book. It's Deepak Chopra's, I don't want to say it's Heal Your Body. It seems like that's so simple. But Deepak Chopra has a book that came out last late 2018, early 2019, and he did a book tour. And he came to one of the Unity churches in Atlanta, right down the road, and I went and saw him and met him. He signed my book. But the book itself is pretty staggering in terms of our mentality on things like staging of disease, where he focuses in on and hones in on stress. That's a big factor. So he's big about meditation. He comes from Indian Ayurvedic tradition. He also incorporates our emotions in that. But most importantly, food and lifestyle, in the way that we can change the way the cells are rejuvenating. So every organ, the cells replace itself. So basically you have this whole kind of an organ or cell, soft tissue, glandular, the cells of the gland itself replace themselves over a period of time. Some are shorter, some are longer. But if we know that and we create an environment where our cells are more youthful, we invigorate the mitochondria. So, CoQ10 and the pycnogenol, the PQQ, and we employ certain techniques to invigorate our youthfulness. We increase our antioxidant levels, decrease the free radical damage. The thought behind that, and we see it in labs, we can reverse some disease. And so I don't know your specific case, Robert, but I don't ever rule anything out. The body's miraculous. And if you hone in on healing and you put all your effort and energy to healing and know your body and trust that your body's rejuvenative. I mean, we are rejuvenating ourselves to the very last breath that we take. So with that, we can self-heal. But it's not just like a mindset. It takes a lot. But love Deepak Chopra. Nicole, $5 super chat. Yay. She says, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Most welcome. I'm honored. Any ideas for my question? You have a few professional formulas products in your full script store. Which one to use? I don't remember. I didn't see your question. I'm sorry. Steph 23. I'm not seeing it up here, but, so which one to use? Adrenal cortex sarcode or adrenal liquescence, adrenal drops? In the world of adrenal health, I use a multitude of things. The first and foremost, you want to test your adrenal gland function and test the state of your cortisol production. So that's important. Know where your values are before you really kind of dig in. Like a homeopathic like this, you can take without testing. But when we get into like an adrenal, the adrenal cortex sarcode is a little different. But like when we get into a glandular, which some people need glandulars to support the function of that actual gland, we need to, we might have, Amazon's here. We need to get more substantial data before we dig into what to take. Lori, kidney and constipation in kidneys. Is there a connection? There can be if you are dehydrated and you have poor fluid function. Part of that whole function. Sorry, you guys. Girls, I swear, nobody's ever breaking into our house. So the homeopathic I reference, it's called Adrenal Drops. Professional formulas. It's in my full script store. If you go to my website and then go to shop and hit on the supplements, you'll go right on in. Is the book Perfect Health or Meta Human? Actually, let me see. Let me look it up. Let's see. Oh my book. It was, let me see. I'm looking at the book, you guys. Let's see. It's taking a little bit of time. It is, it's the newest book. Where is it? Let's see. I'm trying to see. Gosh, he has so many books. Let me go. I'm going to look at his books. Let's see. I actually was introduced when I was in college and read that. I love his voice. He's really great on podcasts. He has just this like rhythm to his voice that's very calming. Let's see. The book. I'm trying to find the book. Let's see. What's the name of it? The Healing Self. It's called The Healing Self. So I'll grab a link from Amazon and post it. But that is the name of the book. And it's all about how the body heals itself. And he, what I value about him is he is both what I call crunchy granola, but he's also science-based. And we need that marriage because we have to have data to support what we intuitively know, but also we need that science and research to also support what we're doing. Okay. So yes, he's almost hypnotic. He really is. But yeah, so I'll link the book in the description box. So I'll link that. I'll link some of the adrenal stuff if you guys want. And I also have some kidney related supportive herbs as well. So this is great for stones. And I also have some like overall renal health. So I'll post those on the once it gets articulated. So friends, this has been a really long chat. I'm so grateful for your time. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Tune in tomorrow. We're doing a live chat. So I will ask you all for those details tomorrow. All right, friends, I will see you guys later. Bye. Let's see, what happened to YouTube? Oh, here we are. Okay, sorry, I lost you guys. This whole YouTube's been really bothering me. Okay, so friends, tune in tomorrow. We'll do a live Q&A. It's Friday, live Q&A day. And I will probably be drinking a little caffeine in here. But right now I'm doing my stress. Stress suppressed tea. You can grab the caffeine and quarantine mug down below, as well as all other fun quarantine tchotchke down below. So thanks for supporting. Thank you for all of the super chats. I am greatly, greatly grateful. Nicole Miller, Cupcake Paper, and then Keisha, Kenshaw, and Letitia. I'm so grateful. We have Caesar, who's a new member. So you guys are so wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. You made my day. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Please like this. Give me a thumbs up on the video here. And then please share. And if you have any other questions, go back to the video, comment in the actual video box. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everybody.